Good afternoon. My name is Landon Farrig. I'm staff for the Strategic Energy Investment Advisory Board. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for making time in between the holidays to join us for this meeting where we'll have some updates on the financials and programs, also some internal updates as far as staffing and process improvement. We're going to start off with an introduction of the new acting director of MEA, Ian Ullman. From there, we will move on to Layla, who is our process improvement manager, to talk about investments in our grant administration efficiency. Follow that up with James Cobb, division director of finance administration, for some financial updates, and finish off with Eric Kaufman, division director of energy programs, for some recent kind of program highlights, including program launches, application results, and a little success story as well that we thought you may find interesting. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Director Ullman.
Thanks, Landon. So I'm acting director Ullman, like Landon said. I've been at MEA nearly 3 years, although I think this may be my first SEIAB advisory board meeting, so I'm excited to be here today. And also to learn from all of you. I have, prior to working, well, let me say this. At MEA, I've been a senior advisor to former Director Pinsky, so I was involved in, most major decision-making for him. And before that, I worked many years in the General Assembly, in what was then the EHE committee, working on major climate and environmental laws, as well as, all the other bills that go to that committee. So I'm fairly familiar with the subject matter. I'm really excited to be in this position. It's obviously a really impactful time to be working on energy, and I appreciate all of you for sharing that journey with me and those of us at MEA. We know that energy is really top of mind. We know that load is increasing for the first time in a while. We've got, energy prices being a major concern. We've got changes at the federal government that are impacting, especially renewable energy. So it's a really, important time, a really interesting time to be in this space. And so I'm excited. As I think MEA's, mission is to bring clean, affordable energy to Maryland residents and also to fight climate change. That has not changed. So the priorities that the former director had are my priorities. I'm hoping to, what I want to do here is reaffirm that commitment, continuity as we move forward here. So with that, what I thought I would do is just give a very high level overview of some of, how we're fulfilling those priorities. I know there was a board meeting a couple of months ago, so I won't go into a lot of detail. You'll probably hear that later from others on this call. In fact, Eric, our division director, Eric Kaufman, our program division director, will be talking about some recent successes. Community solar is really important to me and to the agency because it represents an opportunity to get more clean energy on the grid and also to be really targeted in terms of ensuring that communities all across the state, including people who cannot put solar on the roof, are able to take advantage of that clean energy. So we are continuing to work on community solar so that multiple people can subscribe to an off-site location. It's also, a more efficient use of SEIAB dollars in many cases than lots of smaller projects. We're also still working on clean transportation. I just came back from an official unveiling of one of the state's first NEVI chargers, which is up in Elkton. I think there's 3 now in the state. NEVI is the program funded by the federal government that, tries to get fast chargers initially across the state in important corridors like I-95, where I was today. And that's funded by the federal government. That is moving forward. MEA's role, and where we are tapping the SEIF, is trying to fill in the gaps where NEVI is not currently moving forward. So that is places where people may not have access to charging at home, thinking especially like multifamily housing, condominiums and apartment complexes, community charging locations like libraries and community centers. And we just launched our FY26 program. For that program, we also still have a program for to help cover part of the cost for people who do charge at home, who have a a driveway or a garage and they can plug in there. So we still have that EVSE program too. So we've got a lot of charging infrastructure is coming. We know that that's one of the big obstacles to people getting an EV, is having that confidence that they can charge when and where they need to. We also have a medium and heavy duty truck program for electric vehicles, and that funds trucks and cherry pickers and fire trucks. So that program is moving forward. Beyond transportation, we've got programs that invest in energy efficiency. Like I said earlier, expanding load is a concern, and energy efficiency remains a top priority as a way to try to reduce that load and save people money. We're especially working with limited income Marylanders who live in single family and multifamily homes to reduce those energy burdens. We also have new financial assistance targeted to local governments for both solar and energy efficiency. We call that LGEM. We get really excited about the interest in that program. The deadline just passed, and of the 24 counties that is in the state, 22 applied for that funding, and that's $64 million that is available to counties and municipalities. And so I think our team is going through those applications now, but we're really excited about that partnership with local government. You'll hear more about our financials later, but I mean, the CEF is funded primarily from two sources: RGGI, which is the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is a program, a cap and trade program across many northeastern states that auctions off the power plants who generate electricity, those that have emissions. Those emissions are capped, and they can trade their allowances. And there was an auction this month, which you'll hear more about later, which was extremely high revenue growth yet again this year. The other place where the CEF gets, I think, more than half of its revenue is alternative compliance payments under the Renewable Portfolio Standard, when energy companies, especially utilities, don't purchase enough SRECs to satisfy the RPS. Or tier 1 RECs, any kind of REC, then they can pay an alternative compliance fee, which goes into the CEF. In recent years, those funds have really ballooned. I think this last year we received over $360 million in those ACP payments, and MEA deploys those payments for clean energy. That's what we do with that. So you want to learn more about that. Sometimes there's Public Service Commission orders that requires companies as a condition of, say, mergers, things like that, to make contributions to the CEF. So that's another source. The thing I want to say about the CEF, and it's right there in the name, is that it's a strategic resource, and therefore MEA and with your guidance is trying to invest that resource as responsibly as possible to try to reduce emissions as efficiently as possible, make the best use of the scarce CEF dollars. Even as revenue is going up, we know the need is also quite high, and so that's what we hope that you'll take away from this meeting. And I am very interested in hearing your questions for me, if you have any, as we go into another General Assembly session and as we finalize our budget. I'm interested in your thoughts as to how the CEF should be best utilized and deployed. So that's really all I have to say at this point, but I'd be happy to answer any questions from board members at this time.
Hey, Ian, this is Roan Resch. First of all, welcome to the position. It's good to meet you. Just a question about RGGI and the RGGI kind of structure. I know that there's been discussion about states leaving, and how in your view do you see? Maybe you can update us as to where states are in supporting RGGI, and then how do you kind of view perhaps the revenue coming from that program in the future? How vulnerable is it?
So let me just say, first of all, MEA receives the RGGI proceeds, but it's actually MDE, the Department of Environment, who sits on that board, that RGGI board, and oversees those allowances, those auctions, and sets those regulations. So, and I know there's at least one person from MD on this call. So if I get something wrong, feel free to correct me. But I know that the RGGI states just recently announced a new agreement with a lower cap, right? And that probably, it's a market, and I'm not an expert on that market, but that agreement, I think, has sent a positive signal to the market that RGGI is moving forward. Now, yes, it's true that Pennsylvania has announced that they're not going to join. On the other hand, there was an election in Virginia that may mean Virginia rejoins. So there's always that that dynamic occurring. I think the important thing is that Maryland is moving forward on RGGI. I know that the Department of Environment is in the process of finalizing the regulation to update Maryland's participation to reflect that new agreement, and other states will be doing the same over the next few months, I think, and into the next year. And as those states do that, I think that'll continue to reaffirm that commitment, which, at least right now, is still producing quite a bit of revenue growth. And I didn't get into a lot of detail. There is a formula in the law as to how those RGGI funds can be utilized. Half of it goes to energy assistance for low-income ratepayers, and then the other half comes to the CEF. And there is a formula that specifies how it can be utilized. And it is a really important part of Maryland's investment in fighting climate change. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It's just something for all of us to kind of keep our eyes on, simply because if it does lose some political support or states pull out, it may mean an adjustment of the revenue potentially coming from the RGGI program, which of course affects MEA.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And when we get to the financial portion of this meeting, there'll be a conversation about revenue. And as we think about how to deploy the CEF, we have to think about the fact that, we don't know what the revenue will be in the future, to your point, right? It fluctuates. And so we have to balance, right, our investment in clean energy and energy efficiency and all those measures with what, our expectations are about revenue going forward. And we don't know for sure what it will be. And so that is always a judgment call that we make along with, other policymakers.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Ian? Seeing none, we'll move right ahead with the presentations for today. Layla, you want to take a moment to introduce yourself, and we'll get rolling.
Thank you, Landon. Nice to meet everyone. My name is Layla Horeth. I am the Process Improvement Manager here at MEA, and I'm pleased to share with you the process improvement efforts that are going on at the Maryland Energy Administration, and have some introduction on this first slide. As MEA's budget and programmatic offerings have grown, so has the need to ensure operational efficiencies, which enable MEA to better meet our goals. We have a team here at MEA dedicated to agency performance improvement and operational excellence, including our Chief Performance Officer, myself, the Process Improvement Manager. We recently hired an on-site Salesforce administrator, Salesforce being our database, and we are hiring a data management analyst. Introducing to you the My MEA online application portal. This streamlined portal allows applicants to apply online, track all applications in one place, and receive status on their applications. This portal allows faster and more streamlined processing and in-turn payment. The goals going into this build out was to reduce administrative burden on our staff, to increase the speed of our delivery of grants and rebates, and to improve customer service. As you see on the right, this is a screenshot of the MyMEA portal. And on the next slide, we have included the URL to reach this, which is mea.maryland.gov. This fiscal year, FY26, we have 5 programs in the portal. It includes 3 high volume programs, including the electric vehicle supply equipment rebate program, which is nearing full subscription, the residential and commercial energy storage grant program, which is fully subscribed, and the Maryland Solar Access Program. Then we have 2 competitive grant programs, including the medium and heavy duty zero emission vehicle grant program and the higher education clean energy grant program. Both of the application windows closed in November. Through this system build out, so what I just shared with you was a portion of the larger strategic grant modernization initiative, which is built to strategically build out our internal database. Other pieces of this build out include we are adding the capability to manage our contacts, relationships, and partnerships, tracking the success of our engagement strategies, improving existing grantee experience for submitting reports and invoices, streamlining programs and financial approval process to issue our payments faster, glean better data and insights on program performance and outcomes, create dashboards for improved data transparency, and we are launching additional programs in MyMEA in FY27. On the right, you can see a screenshot of a current dashboard we have in Salesforce, which you can see as of December 1st. We had total requested funds of all 5 of these programs combined at 42 million. And going to the right, you can see how it's trickling down to total dispersed funds. On my last slide, sharing the timeline that we have taken to increase our modernization of our processes. Back in November of last year, we started phase 1 of our operational efficiencies through streamlined routing processes and templated grant documents. This has really helped our programs operate more efficiently and increase the understanding both internally and externally what our systems are. These next 2, so sharing in the beginning of the year, we launched the Maryland Solar Access portal, and this was kind of a pilot to share that this is working more efficiently than our previous processes, and this is connected directly to MEA's existing grant database. And then at the beginning of this fiscal year, we launched the 4 additional MEA programs. Then looking towards next year, at the beginning of the year, we'll be streamlining our award recommendation process and standardizing the funding opportunity announcements to better communicate to our constituents what our programs are. And we are continuing to improve our templates of our legal documents. In early next year, we'll also be establishing our Salesforce database as a customer relationship management tool to better serve our customers. As you may know, Salesforce is a CRM tool, but we have some serious improvements to make, which I'm really excited about. And lastly, in the beginning of FY27, we will have templated our online application and expand the number of programs in the MyMEA online application portal, and improving our functionality for invoicing and reporting through the portal which would pertain to our current grantees to allow them a easier time to submit their reporting. That is everything I wanted to share with you today, and I'm happy to take questions.
Before we hear questions from the board members, Eric, can you just briefly state big picture, why is MEA doing this?
I mean, I think it's, as Layla said, I think it's one of the most important things here is, we're trying to obviously get funding out there to get outcomes, but we also want to enhance the customer experience. We will make it easier to apply for funding. We want to be able to present funding in a way that can get to all audiences, and that also add to it. It also will streamline and allow us to move more rapidly from application to reviewing the applications to making award decisions and getting funding out there to where it can do the most good. So it is critical, it is core. And then one last point is also it allows us to expand our data collection of our outcomes so that we'll be able to better roll up the actual results of the work of this agency and our partners. And I've got to thank the team for everything they've done, because it really is also allowing the programs team to focus more on working with our stakeholders in designing programs and deploying those programs by the support that Layla and her team has given us to be able to make things more efficient and streamlined.
Thanks, Eric. Any questions from the board members regarding our process improvement strategies? Maurice.
Yeah, let me commend you, Layla, Horef, and the whole entire team. I think that the process improvement is very transparent, and I think is very open. People can queue into it, and just as Eric said, get a feedback, and you can easily measure the actions that the agency is taking on each of the programs. You ought to be commended, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the announcements program, how we get to reach the communities and the counties, and depending on the different groups and programs that can actually get the information either through alerts, and so that they can respond and apply on time. I think that's a very good program. And another thing I want to hear more about is about the Salesforce database. That's actually the area too that I kind of feel like, especially for vendors and those that kind of run the program, what they're going to do. So this is quite exciting. I commend you all for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. I really appreciate it. I know we will use this data for our comms team to ensure we're targeting the correct people and seeing where we can improve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others? Sadie, yes. Ms. Tresher, if you're speaking, you might be muted.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just saying, as a grant maker and someone who issues grants and rebates in our organization and going through a system change, that I just appreciate all the work that you did, updating templates and thinking about the end user. So just really appreciate the updates and the work that you're doing so far.
Thank you, Sadie. Yeah, I know internally it's super useful for our program managers to have those templates, and we've already seen the benefits. So thank you.
Any other questions before we move on? Seeing none, we'll move on to James Cobb, Division Director of Finance and Administration for MEA.
All right, thanks, Landon. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's enjoying this nice, cool weather we're having outside. All right. Well, I don't have to say a whole lot at the beginning of this part because Director Ullman already took care of some of this stuff of saying, reminding people where our funds come from for the SEIAB, from the Reggie auctions, from the term of compliance payments, and then from the PSC orders that come. So we don't need to go into all those. And again, a reminder of the statute of what created the SEIAB. And so this is more just informational. And since this becomes a part of the public record, as Director Ullman said, MDE has the SEIAB. We just administer the SEIAB and manage it from a financial standpoint for all grants. And of course, our biggest directives are making sure that the funds are utilized as directed and as legally mandated. They are not used for general obligations of the state, and our funds can only be spent by appropriation or through a budget amendment with the legislature. Reggie market, there are 4 Reggie auctions every year, every quarter. There, as Director Ullman talked about, our MBA secretary is a part of the board of the Reggie, and they manage and monitor and handle all the auctions. And there's certain components. There's the cost, there's the minimum reserve price that auctions, the price will not go below $2.56. The cost containment reserves, as well as the emission containment reserves. These are just part of the standard language of the Reggie auctions, and they determine how much revenue we earn from it. We had our most recent auction, as Director Ullman said, on December 3rd. There were 15 million allowances sold at a clearing price of $26.73. The total proceeds from the auction was $407 million. Maryland proceeds were $73.8 million of that. There were no cost containment reserves that were sold because they were all sold in the first quarter of the calendar year. So here's a snapshot of the last 5 auctions. As you can see, this was the second highest revenue of all the auctions that we had. The first highest was in 60. The highest was auction 67. And that was the auction that had the cost containment reserves. So it's kind of a flawed comparison, but this auction was the second highest. From the inception of the Reggie auctions, the state of Maryland has generated $1.7 billion in revenue. And here's the comparison of the 25 actual and the 26 appropriated. The Reggie proceeds for 25, or like I said, that's the actuals. The tier 1 ACP was 33 million for a total of 300.8 million. Projected for FY26 is 221 million in Reggie proceeds and 44.6 million for tier 1 renewable energy ACP. Now, we won't know that number until April because those funds aren't available until April. The Reggie proceeds, and again, we're only halfway through the year. We have 2 more auctions in fiscal year 26, but projected we're at 221 million. Here's our current status or appropriated status of our funds for FY26. We had our beginning fund balance of 682 million. Now, that includes cash and taking out any funds that were encumbered for grants and programs that were not fully funded yet. Our overall revenue projections for this year that was approved by the legislature is 432.8 million. And our approved appropriations for all grants, interstate transfers was 671 million. So if everything is constant, we'll have a projected fund balance at the end of the year of $444 million. These are a list of the interstate transfers. As Director Ullman talked about, there are others, but the biggest one on here is the energy assistance for $150 million in 26 for energy assistance for Maryland State residents. So we are, as you can see, it's a $96 million increase for use of funds of the C for 26 as opposed to what was actually done in 25. And these are the bulk of the in-state transfers to other agencies for various energy efficiency reasons. And again, the CEF is broken out into 4 areas. You have administration, you have energy efficiency, the low to moderate income, you have energy efficiency for all other sectors, and then renewable and clean energy programs. As was mentioned earlier, the allocation is administration, low to moderate income, and energy efficiency, all others, gets 10% of the RGGI revenue. The renewable and clean energy gets 20%. Now, administration is capped at $7.5 million each year of RGGI sources. And so, this is the breakout and the actual for 25 and what was appropriated for 26 for those various sources. And that's just a snapshot and update. I mean, not much has changed since our last, we just had a board meeting with September, so it wasn't a big difference. But if anybody has any questions,
Mark, go ahead.
Hey, this is Mark Shebus from Office of People's Counsel. I have 2 questions. One, I'm curious how you, I think there's a formula that you all use to project future RGGI revenues. I noticed, I can't remember which slide it was, but the total projected, I think RGGI revenue for fiscal year 26 is about $30 million less than actual revenues for 2025. And I'm just curious if you could clarify the formula that you're using to make the projections for auctions going forward. And the second question is, do you have the balance for the sub-account, for the energy assistance sub-account? I mean, we've already gone over like half of the RGGI proceeds by law go into that sub-account. And, with the $150 million that is due to be transferred to OHEP from that, and taking into account the proceeds that are expected to come in through the last 2 auctions of the fiscal year, do you know what that projected end of fiscal year 26 balance is for that sub-account?
Okay, well, your first question, how we come up with the auctions. We take an average of the prior 8 auctions and kind of calculate what will happen as far as allowances that can be sold going forward and a price. What was the average price for the prior 8 auctions going into like right now, we're in the process, we submitted our 27 budget. We're in the process of getting all that. So the prior 8, including the one in December, is what we will use to project the 27 RGGI revenue. So that's how we projected the 26 revenue. And now for 25, the actual was higher. But as Director Ullman said earlier, we can't really project what those numbers will be. But that's why we try and be conservative and use an historical average to come up with the RGGI auction revenue. The second question, as far as energy assistance, the $150 million, if I'm not mistaken, we have not transferred $150 million yet. But that's what is available, and that's what's appropriated. What's available after that transfer I think it's projected, I want to say $30, $40 million. I'm not sure. But what was appropriated is the $150 million through the legislature. Anything above that would have to go through a budget amendment.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Just I appreciate that, and I understand the reason for the conservative projection, or the conservative formula in making the projections. The reason I ask about the balance going forward is that there's obviously a lot of additional pressure for bill assistance right now, given what's happening on the federal level, and so yeah, I'm not sure what we'll see in next year's budget in terms of what DHS is asking for, but yeah, it seems like every cent that's available is going to be needed.
Right.
Board members, any other questions for Jimmy? Seeing none, we'll move on to our programs update with Division Director of Energy Programs, Eric Kaufman.
Good afternoon. So we are mid-cycle and for our fiscal year, so this will be a little lighter update than the more comprehensive update I gave last time, but would give you a solid snapshot of where we stand. A couple of sort of the top level highlights. We are continuing to see a high level of interest in MEA programs. Our programs launched earlier this year than ever, and many of them have actually closed for applications, and I'll give you some results that came in so you can get a sense of what the demand is. I'm following up on some of the early results Director Ullman mentioned. But continued interest, which we're thrilled to see even in the wake of federal changes. We're still seeing substantial interest in MEA, in the strategic energy investment funds and the programs MEA has to offer. Right now, I hope I'm not being too optimistic, but I think I am expecting that we are on target for full or near full encumbrance of funds based on the results we've seen. We are expanding efforts, education, outreach in the community, both working with partners, but also we are providing funding for community-based organizations to help Marylanders identify opportunities to reduce energy consumption and the affordability benefits that come with that, as well as answer some of the hard questions they have about things like electrification technologies and how do we get those technologies into homes in an affordable way. So we're pushing resources out to the community and trusted intermediaries, which is allowing us to get our word out to communities. We as a government agency may not have been the first person they listen to say, hey, here, when you work with a community group, you can get a lot more reach. Our energy storage program is fully subscribed. So that is the energy storage grant program. The Maryland Solar Access Program has experienced very high demand. A lot of that, candidly, is leading up to the deadline for residential investment tax credit access. We are working with the industry and the community to manage as best as we can and get as many applications approved as possible. And then just generally, our programs this year shifted from, there's two kinds of programs we offer. One are competitive, and the other are first come, first serve. We've shifted more programs towards competitive this year. And that's to get the best of the best in projects, can really serve as exemplars to others. There's early adopters, early movers that can really show. I always say about programs show what's possible. And they create examples and leadership for others to follow. And that's something we can see us continuing to lean into. So I mentioned there, I would give you some early results of programs, and Director Ullman mentioned some of this, but for our local government energy modernization program, funding renewable energy efficiency and electrification in local government buildings where people can see and experience those technologies, where they can help those local governments reduce costs while helping us get more clean energy on the grid and reduce energy consumption. So we had $64 million available. We received 87 total applications. 160 million requested and 22 out of 24 counties participating, and plus 32 applications from municipalities. So not just the counties, we have a competitive piece for the municipalities as well. We have some hard funding evaluations to do with all that applications volume. The larger part of the program is formula, so some of that will help us with that, take care of it itself. But yeah, we are going to have some very hard deliberations on that funding, but I think it's a great signal as to the demand and appetite for clean energy efficiency electrification technologies. Similar outcome for public schools. One of our headline programs this year was our Decarbonizing Public Schools program. Similar kinds of technologies to be funded, energy efficiency and electrification, solar, with the cornerstone being net zero, and to get as many schools out there that generate more energy than they use. 58 applications, 36 million requested, 18 to 24 local education administrations or school districts participating in the program. We can't, it have that kind of geographic reach across the great state of Maryland is fantastic. Next. Now, a little bit of a zoom in on a previous year grant. Fairmont Heights is a community in the Beltway community in Maryland. And one of the projects that brought a nonprofit housing developer, the community and the county and us together was the Fairmont Heights Net Zero Home Project. 6 affordable, what I call infill homes, targeted for first-time home buyers. These are homes, this is affordable housing. This is housing that is income qualified, connected with a number of programs, how people get access to mortgages. But where we came in is we partnered with them as they're building these fantastic homes, but we partnered with them on getting clean energy incorporated as well. So we funded the solar so that you're going to have homeowners in Maryland are going to be in very green, very energy efficient, and very affordable housing, not just to purchase, but also to live in. And so I think it's a fantastic success of that showing what's possible tagline you hear from me occasionally. And we're proud to work with the community and partners. The one other one is Director Ullman mentioned community solar. I didn't have a standard slide for this, but I did want to put it in context. So community solar focused on low to moderate projects that benefit low to moderate income Marylanders has been a cornerstone of MEA's programs for several years now and continues to be. A roll-up of all the projects. Of all the projects we funded or up to last year built, that was 129 grants. We awarded about $50 million. It would be over 180 megawatts of new solar capacity, with the 20-year savings to Marylanders of 183 million across 24,000 subscribers. So if we think about impacts and multi-year impacts, it's a fantastic example. It really highlights why we're so focused on community solar, because it gives an option to scale up clean energy, but also benefit affordability in Maryland. Okay. We continue to focus on partnerships. We're working with other state agencies to leverage their unique capabilities. Like, think about workforce. MEA is not the primary department for workforce development in Maryland. The Department of Labor is. And we work with them to inject funding into the EARN program so that they can help get jobs and get people placed in jobs. We're working with the Department of Housing and Community Development to support comprehensive multifamily energy projects focused on low to moderate income multifamily housing, so that they can get. So we're providing funding for solar, providing funding for energy efficiency improvements, and even EV charging. So bringing it all together with our partners. And then I'll talk a little bit to sort of come to a close about federal impact. But one of the things obviously we're all concerned about is the phase out of the investment tax credit. So one of the things we have done to help address some of the gaps is we recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the Maryland Clean Energy Center to expand construction and pre-construction financing for solar. Some of the most expensive and hard to obtain capital to close some of that gap That tranche of funding will be focused on multifamily properties and getting solar on those properties to benefit and provide direct affordability benefits to the residents. So that's kind of dynamic, active efforts we're doing to address the phase out of the ITC. Next. So some of the other areas we are working on are providing some grant flexibility so that we can provide. So one of the things is that to get for projects up to 1.5 megawatts, if they have a 5% capital investment, they can get to what's called safe harbor. We're giving our existing grantees some flexibility to lean into their grants to use those funds to get to that safe harbor provision so that they can get access to ITC. Increased grant funding allowances. So we've increased the incentive amounts, and we have also increased the total grant available for audiences such as schools and local governments, so that projects that are just coming to us now that wouldn't make safe harbor will be able to move forward. It will reduce the outcomes because we're not benefiting from the ITC, but it is what we're doing to keep these projects moving. We talked about local government support. We're also in the interest of reducing the total costs of residential solar projects. We are encouraging local governments and providing them funding, the potential for grants, to adopt Solar App, which is streamlined residential permitting. And if you put it in context, you've got Montgomery County that's already implemented. We provide funding to Prince George's County. The two of them are nearly 35 to 40% of the housing stock in the state. So we're really starting to see that impact of getting funding out there to not only fund projects, but also to make major changes that can make solar more cost effective across the board and reduce those soft costs. I talked a little bit about the bridge financing facility we've worked with Maryland Clean Energy Center to make available. And then we're also continuing to hear feedback from the solar industry and other sectors that are impacted, and we look forward to feedback that you have so that we can continue to adapt, keep momentum in Maryland, and keep clean energy and energy efficiency being deployed. A couple quick updates on some changes in the federal administration. Maybe you've seen that DOE has reorganized. A lot of the offices that grants that flowed to MEA or in have been shifted under other pillars of the organization. We are assessing that. Right now, some programs are still getting feedback on, others are still not moving. And then the long-term impacts are unclear. And then there was the recent renaming of one of the national labs. In terms of what that means for us, MEA's Inflation Reduction Act home appliance rebate application to DOE was conditionally approved, but it has not received full approval. So we cannot proceed with those until we receive full approval from DOE, so we can access the $136 million in funding. There hasn't been significant movement on that yet, but we're hopeful. We're continuing to proceed with on-ramping an overall program administrator that would do the final build out of the program and run it so that we are in place and ready to go should those federal funds be released to us. And then we're continuing with a number of studies funded by the State Energy Program, funding from DOE. So a lot going on in that space, and us trying to be prepared, but we are obviously impacted by actions at the federal level. And with that, I'll pause for any questions.
Mark.
Eric, thanks for the presentation. I'm curious about the ITC related work, the work that you're doing with MCEC to sort of help get projects over the finish line that are being affected by the curtailment of the credits on the federal level. To what extent are those funds coming from RGGI funds? To what extent are they coming from ACP funds? And two, like, are there other sorts of projects that are not being funded because of the money going into that stream of financing?
So to your first question, there ACP funds. And the real purpose there is there were projects that were lined up in a pipeline to move forward that are good projects, can benefit a lot of people. They're scalar projects and they can benefit a lot to low to moderate income Marylanders. So figuring out, working with that pool of pipeline of projects, the Maryland Clean Energy Center, to identify where the gap was one of the approaches we took. In terms of other impacts, we're watching it closely. I mean, candidly, it's a very dynamic situation, as you can imagine. I think our overall analysis is we feel that the projects are under 1.5 megawatts that are largely through their permitting and other processes now stand a good chance of making a safe harbor. Others after that, or larger projects, are going to struggle a little more. And it's going to be something where we're going to need to continue to get feedback from the industry and see where funding is needed. I mean, candidly, this funding is not going to be able to solve all problems and all challenges, but where can we most strategically inject those funds to be able to help keep momentum with clean energy deployment?
Got it. Thanks, Eric. And to be clear, I'm not questioning the prudency of this decision. I think it sounds like a really good thing, and I'm glad MEA is doing it. I was more curious to understand on that second question, what is not happening because of the need for Maryland to make up the gap that's being left by federal policy?
I mean, and thank you, by the way. I just want to give you some more context. We don't totally know yet. We know that the projects that were sort of in the pipeline are racing for safe harbor, the can. In terms of the next tranches of projects after that, I think that the industry is still evaluating the impacts. And then we also have the potential impacts of the upcoming Treasury rules for FEOC, federal entities, a concern that no one's entirely sure how they're going to impact the industry. So I wish we knew more. We're going to continue to reach out and try and collect as much information as we can so that we can adapt. And yeah, that's honestly where I think we all stand.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, we have a moment now for board member discussion. Would any of the board members like to bring up any other topics or any other questions related to today's presentations?
I don't have anything at this time.
Thank you.
Nor do I, Landon.
Thank you, Mr. Rush. All right.
I do not either, Landon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rory. Right.
Mr. London, I commend you and the whole entire team for a great job, and I want to thank you all too for your support for higher education. I used to be in higher education, and I see a little bump from 9 million to 40 million, and I could wish for more for those folks at those colleges all through the state. So thank you so much.
And speaking on behalf of higher education from the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, I concur. Thank you all. Great job.
Thank you both. Well, with that, we will transition into the public comment period available to those on the call who are not board members. If you would like to make a public comment, simply raise your hand using the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen, and we can record your public comment. Mr. Sticks, go ahead. You have 2 minutes. You're muted, Mr. Sticks, if you're trying to speak.
I apologize. I want to commend the work you're doing, and on behalf of the Sierra Club. And I have one question. The 150 million that's shown in the budget for bill support, does that include the portion of the 200 million that went to bill rebates for low income, or is that accounted for separately?
Those are accounted for separately. The 150 million in the budget goes to an existing program within the state for low income bill payment assistance.
The EUSP. Yeah.
Right, the EUSP.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any other comments or questions? Brandon? You're muted, Brandon.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Brandon Bowser, Public Service Commission. Really impressive results from MEA. Great job. I just had one quick question pertaining to one of your federal programs. Was MEA planning to run the RISE program, the 40101D, again this fiscal year?
So currently we don't anticipate we're offering it again. We have, we have a certain amount of funding that we are currently working with DOE to get their review of some of the grants that came in.
Okay.
That came in. Apologies for lack of precision.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, seeing no other hands. Director Ullman, did you want to make any closing comments before we adjourn?
Well, sure. Let me just say, I thought it was a good presentation. I hope that the board found it meaningful. If you have additional questions that you come up with afterwards, feel free to send them in by email. Happy to, continue that engagement and that work. Like I said at the outset, it's a really interesting, exciting, and sometimes challenging time to be in the energy space. And I look forward to continuing to work with all of you.
Thank you, Director Ullman. With that, we'll conclude our meeting for the day. Thank everyone for their attendance and attention. And as always, to the board members, thank you for continued participation and volunteering of your time to assist MEA in our endeavors.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.